that evolve and spread over time, and, you know, the new property owners pay part of it. But, I mean, one answer is like where we can start using cash, we should start using cash. And that, I mean, I'm not even
But
sure.
like, I mean, we just bonded $6 million.
Okay, but wait, let me,
which are-
we have to, and the reason is, it's happening all over the state, we have a levy limit.
Right,
And so, which I love, because we don't wanna be raising taxes every year, right? But what that does is, limits your ability to pay cash, and so what we have to do necessarily is you start borrowing for capital expenditures, okay? She's completely right on TIFs. But what's happening is, since we've borrowed so much, we have a very high debt payment, and we subsidize it through a reserve. If the reserve runs out, your only real option, because you're still gonna have to fix roads, maybe at a lesser pace, you're still gonna have to bond for certain things. If you look through the long-range plan, there's not a lot of fluff. So then what you need to do is start, I mean, what I always say is there anything we can do on user fees rather than in the operating budget? Because that will lower, it'll give us a cushion to pay more debt service, or more debt payments. But, so one, and the levy, and it helps with the levy limit. So, you know, like yard waste collection, or, so one thing is user fees.
Well, people hate, you know,
People hate
that.
user fees, that's my point, is at some point, if you wanna reduce, people say, I want to reduce taxes, okay? And nobody wants their levels of service to go down.
I have a question kind of holistically, just knowing there's not much fluff, as you just said. Is this financial plan, does it reflect all of the capital projects that
No.
we need to do, or do we know
By
that,
far not.
for instance, 10 years from now, we're gonna know that we need to borrow?
Let me give you an example.
We have to, yeah.
So that was my concern about this year, you'll hear me say it in the budget meetings, but like like Oakland Avenue, I already sent in a whole list, but like Oakland Avenue, it's gonna be 46 years old by the time 48 years old by the time it's scheduled to be redone. That's a long time. Now, for a concrete road, maybe, but usually we do some repairs for south, you know, and that needs to go in there. So I did get a map, so it's a new thing, I asked her to make. But, so, the Oakland Avenue pit, because we have 2 pits where you go down and service, I think it's water or sewer, I don't know. But, we have Downer next year, you know, we put that in,
Yeah.
but where's Oakland Avenue in our chart? Those numbers do not reflect $1.5 million in DPW yard improvements. We are just dumping,
Okay, they show.
they show
down-
it's there.
No, actually, they don't show the DPW, they show at the bottom on page 12. They show streetlight, so these are things that were in last year but have been taken out. So for one thing, the
So they're not reflected in
the
the
biennial road program is much reduced. And, you know, one concern I have,
By 750?
you know,
No? It was 2.5.
in 2022 was 1.85, and now it shows 1.14. In 2024, it was 1.75, and now it's 1.2. So these numbers are a lot lower, and we gotta realize there's inflation in there too. So, you know, by the time we get 6 years out, I mean, Wilson Drive was about 2.5, maybe 3, I think, with everything. Was it 3 with everything, Wilson?
It was about 3, it was supposed to be 3.5, but it came in lower.
At 3, but that's everything.
3.2.
But I mean, so you think 1.2 in 2024, what's that really gonna buy us in terms of road reconstruction projects? I mean, less and less. So that's a lot lessened. And then the street lighting LED lights, 600,000 was taken out. Hubbard parking lot, which we talked about, and I think is pretty, you know, I mean, we were all in somewhat agreement that that was something that should have been done. It's not in here. There's nothing in here for the police garage. There's nothing in here for the fire station if we have to fund some of that. Of course, we don't know that yet.
I have a question for you though. So the things that were taken out, to me, if you have a chance, go on the web and look at the pavement management plan. And it really enlightened me 2 days ago, because it explains why street overlays, like why spending on the maintenance year is very important, because it shows you exactly how much by graphs it'll save you in the next 10 years or 20 years for reconstruction, because it extends the lives of the roads and it's much cheaper. By what David had just said was taking out between 500,000 and 750,000 a year in road, construction and maintenance. I asked,
They do road maintenance on even
I
years.
asked Leanne, and
These
her
are on odd years,
I
these are
understand.
road reconstructions, and what she told me is after we've been making a lot of so it could be that Leanne looked at this and said, you know, these
her
numbers are too high.
response today was that we definitely underfunding road maintenance, that we've been
Road
done.
maintenance or road reconstruction?
Both, she said both.
Cause road maintenance is not
I understand.
really in here.
I get it, and we've been doing 80,000 a year in our budget for road maintenance on the even
Okay.
years. So anyways, and my other thing was for street lights, for the LED lights, that I, since day one, have been told it's always been in there, but we were the first to get LED lighting, like go green on our traffic stoplights. And since then, we've been told we'll save a ton of money on electricity annually, that within 12 years, by paying the 600,000 up front, we're gonna save for the rest of our life. And so that was these are two things that are important in saving for the future, and I just wanna make sure that our budget director is telling us that, so we know what we're cutting could actually save, and there's some other stuff that may not be, so.
Yeah, so there are things that were in last year that are gone, and maybe there's an explanation for it, but I think the explanation has been, well, these were things that we discussed in prioritization, and we didn't say positively, yes, do these
Oh,
things, so they
exactly.
were taken out. But we didn't say much positively
Well,
about.
we didn't forecast for 20
We
years.
we didn't really finish, and, you know, I mean, I don't know that we can really drop the ball on all this. On the other hand, there's only so much, you know, but that's what the whole point of this is to say, look, you can only bond for so much, you can only have so much debt service, so, I mean, I think they also, I mean, if they threw everything in here, we'd be getting like 10% tax increases a year, you know, so I think, they're trying to show, well, this is what you can do and have, but, I mean, when you compare the, per house, the tax increase per house, estimated tax bill, this is on page 6. I just started looking at 2022 and 2027. So last year was 2,653, and it's down 2,459. And in 2027, it's 3,081, and it's down now to 2,674.
About half the expenses.
So, right, so this plan reflects much less in terms of capital facilities and much less in terms of growth and property tax, you know, but that's the balance, you know, like, we wanna fix the roads, we need to fix the sewers,
Here's my
you know,
long range plan.
and how do you balance that with not overloading the property tax, especially given that we already have a lot of debt and we're already trying to stabilize it with reserves, and we're gonna run out of reserves.
I get that, but I want a full, like, I feel very strongly that if you're gonna do a long-range financial plan, and you know expenses are coming up, like the DPW yards, I don't know if you've read the facility plan, but we are dumping straight oil into the river. Like, we're talking about pavers, that is the worst situation in the world right now, and nobody's talking about it. You know, we're environmentalists here, and our residents are, and that is the worst situation. You should read that facilities plan. And so we know we have to do it. The roads there have crumbled to gravel. That retaining wall is a safety hazard for the workers. Like, and then we take it out of the plan. Like, if you know you have facility needs, and it's a 20-year plan,
Well, that's a concern. What did you guys have, what did you wanna ask?
Well, I guess my question is for budgeting purposes,
Yeah.
these numbers, I get the sense that they're very much approximations.
Mhm.
Is it something where we make what we're doing fit the budget? We say we're gonna spend 1.2 million and that's it, or if we go and do a project, is it gonna be something where it costs 1.6 million, we have to do it for 1.6?
you borrow. So
So you
capital is
just borrow.
different because it never affects your budget till the following year.
Oh, so you.
Right? So, that's why we do a long-range plan, because in the middle of the year, we do get those situations where, like, garbage trucks, we need garbage trucks, so we made the decision to bond for them in the mid-year, okay?
Okay.
So,
Well, no, those were in the long-range financial plan.
right, but,
And that's why normally we do the plan and we all, like, my first year, I like suggested something. And one of the trustees was like, but that's not in the plan, you know, you know, and I was sort of like, oh, but, you know, so that's why it was important to me to get alleys in the plan, because when I first started, alleys were not even in the plan, so, so once it's in the plan, it's like not necessarily that we're gonna do it, it sometimes changes, but if you want something, it is not gonna happen unless it's been in the plan.
And you wanna know the
And,
debt service.
and we also normally approve the plan and then bond. So we've all discussed it, we've all discussed all the projects and the priorities, and we know, and we see what's in the year, and that's what we bond for. And that was what was a little funky this year with the timing, is we had to go to bond before we had even talked about this.
Right.
We did that last year too, I have the spreadsheets, but we got full spreadsheets about and compared it to the long-range plan. It was ahead of the long-range plan, I don't know why, but it happened.
But I mean, the long-range plan is over time, we know, okay, PPII, we're gonna be doing, 200,000 every year, we're all kind of on the same page with, the sewer, and the sewer numbers, okay, the really big ones are the sewer numbers, and they have changed, and at one point they were like $30 million we were talking about, and then with MMSD and this, and the big deep tunnel they're gonna do on Edgewood. So that really, so the numbers change, and when you're talking 10 years out, that makes sense that they would change. I mean, it's not written in stone, but.
It's called long-range planning, and that's why I feel like we've never taken out things that we've known had to be, just so the numbers went down. Like, my thing is, we do this exercise to figure out how much debt payments we're gonna have. It doesn't matter what year it falls in, I mean, it'll change it a little bit, but if we know we have to purchase a garbage truck within a 10-year period, you put it in, and I don't care if it's in 2022 or
Okay, but they also have been, we've also been saying we don't want property tax to increase, so,
That's my
I mean,
point, so you have,
well, but then, I mean, from Mark's perspective, I mean, he doesn't wanna bring us a document that shows 10% he knows that's not gonna go over big, so if he put everything in here, but on the other hand, we need to be presented with the universe so we can make that decision about, okay, the sewer stuff we know we have to do, and then it's like, well, how aggressive are we on the roads, I mean, how much do we care about, I mean, to me, the police facility, we gotta do something with that garage space. I mean, I would like to see more options than just being told it's gonna be $1 million, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, is that something that is an option, to basically say, we'd like to see everything, and
That's what we used to do.
then we, can narrow it down. and-
this is
and
the
decide
first year we
what's-
didn't.
What's appropriate.
Well, but that's not really true, because, earlier, Oakland only got added last year, when we said, what about Oakland Avenue,
No,
it's
they-
not even on here.
Right, they forgot to put it in, Mark wasn't even aware it was in the horizon, but that's.
He
a-
drives on it every day,
I
it was
understand.
just
I
kind
know.
of like, we're not gonna put it in for right
But,
now.
but it's still none of the trustees had ever talked about that either, so as needs arise that we recognize, as someone brings up, or that's why we deliberate, then we should put it in. And so this year, again, I said to Leanne, what about the resurfacing? So she just gave me the map, and I guarantee during our deliberations it'll go in, but it should, that's my point, is we're doing long-range planning so we can see how much debt we have.
Well, and the thing is also that our biggest expense by far gets, other than sewers, is roads, right? So that's why it's very important to me to have a road plan that meshes with our financial plan. So, and so we basically know where she gives this series of maps, we basically know, that Larkin area was originally 2020, and now it's pushed out to 2022. But so we generally know, that's the next group of road, that's gonna be the big in 2022, where everything's dug up and no one can drive, and then I think it goes down to, then we're into sewer, and I think the road stuff all goes along with where the sewer work is being done. But that's, I've always wanted to have a general idea of what area of the village we're talking about next for a major road project. And then, so, yeah, those two things, they have to mesh.
Another important thing we've been asking about, that you might wanna think about, is we'll talk about alleys. Alleys are pretty new. I finally got, this year, I just asked them through an email, so I'll share, you don't have my email, but if we funded, we were thinking $250 for alleys a year, or every other year, 500,000 or 750,000. They presented it okay, which one you wanna do, and they showed how many you could do, and I said, what's the total linear foot? I wanna know how long it would take at this funding level to complete all our alleys.
Right.
But without the linear footage in the end, the total, how do you pick? because you don't know what 250 does, it might be like 40 years.
Yeah.
Or does 500 get us there in 20? And so I think this year will be the first time we actually get to see that, because I asked for it. But just, maybe we don't need I have no idea what the right level is unless you know how long it would take to complete it. And so I just remember that should be coming this year.
So we should ask, so in other words, we need to look at longer time horizons than just 2029. We need to look at how long it's going to take.
I'd say 20, 30 years. Oh yeah, for the road program, they
for
always,
everything, yeah.
so if you look at the pavement management plan, if you kept the level of funding at 2 to 2.5 million every other year, okay? When you read it, it's only like 9 pages or something, but you would be able to complete it in a certain amount of years, and that's what people, when I got on board, and I think David did too, but that's what we were always told, like, but our levels are only much less than that, our funding levels, so I asked Leanne this time in an email, I just said, they seem off, because if we're saying this, yet we're budgeting almost half, they need to match, you know what I'm saying? So run it, show us how it degrades the roads by this funding level, so we understand, we're okay, well, that might be the decision in the end, but just an understanding of at what funding level you plug them into that model, and you'll see how many roads then peaked at over maintenance do, you know, so you'll have a better idea.
The idea is that it's a rolling, like now that, for a long time, the board didn't do any road projects at all, and things got really bad. So we've been kind of catching up, but the idea is, like Murray, we did like 3 years ago. So the idea is that you have this kind of rolling, like every, you know, you're doing the road reconstructions, and then once you've done all the reconstructions, you do the resurfacings that you need to keep the base in place and keep it, and that you should only need to reconstruct, I don't know, 20 years or 25 years or so. A road should last 25 years. But the idea is that you get to a point where you have a rolling, like you've done everything you need to do, and now you're just doing like every 3 years you have to do another road, and you're doing the maintenance, and it should be steady.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be a steady state of what you have to put in to keep the road program. But I don't think we're there yet because we've been playing catch up. And then you also have all these other things like you've got the water system underneath that is 90 years old in many cases, and like sometimes it lasts and sometimes it doesn't. So sometimes you need to dig up a road for that, and so you might as well do the whole road while you're at it. So it's not something that you could just do cookie cutter. I mean, there is some art and science about how, and it does change, and there's reasons for it to change, but.
So, I mean, speaking of reasons for it to change, but we are still looking at the sewer project date of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's for the MMSD's new pipe, it's,
Right.
MMSD's building it, so we can't change it.
but that's the combined sewer, that's the south.
It has to be done
Right.
before anything else.
So their pipe has to be done before we can do our sewers on the southeast
Yes.
quadrant.
That's why
So
the
that's
roads
why
are,
and that's why we're
Are
waiting
you
so long.
public works?
so when you read the
Your
pavement
public
plans,
works, right?
Yes.
it'll tell you that.
Okay.
So you'll see Menlo, Shorewood, there's a bunch in the south that are like way overdue.
Mhm. Well, I
And-
was not about the roads per se, but the reason that we have waited. I mean, I know it
Yes,
was
we've waited,
$30
yeah.
million at one point, but.
We didn't have a solution. The solution probably wouldn't have been acceptable to a lot of the environmentalists. And so there was a solution, but
Right,
it
no, I
wasn't.
remember, it was a
So-
terrible solution.
But so MMSD, we finally, they can't do anything for one community, so they had to have at least benefiting 2 communities. And
right.
so it took a long time, but they finally put it in their budget this year, so
So
to
they're-
expand the
And I
pipe.
think they're
Yeah.
talking about starting in 2019 and doing their work
Engineering.
earlier. So they're gonna put in like the big tunnel,
Right.
and then once that's in, we can start connecting to it, and
Okay.
that's what the 2022 numbers are, yeah.
Okay.
The 2022 numbers are not the connections, it's actually the south side, it's the south area of the village. They're gonna engineer in 2019, but I don't think they're budgeting for that pipe to go into
But we're not
2020.
paying anything. That's what MMSD, we're not paying anything, so this 6 million
Except
in
engineering.
2022 is not, it's 6 million, is not paying for that.
No.
What they explained to me was they had to build that, the pipes from the southeast side that connect into that is what we're talking about here in 2022,
So,
2024.
can I ask you a question? So you're saying, so the I have the 2018 online.
Yeah, okay.
So you're saying that that number is, what did you say, 620?
Yeah, it was in 2018, it was
72.
7,250, and now
Yeah.
it's 6,070,000.
So is that because the cost went down?
I don't know, they must have more updated engineering.
Okay.
I mean, these numbers, we don't really have a lot of choice about, like, we know what lines we have to put in.
Right.
And the cost estimates, you know, as we get closer and we get engineers' estimates, they'll change too. But the one we have choices about the road program, the alley program, I don't know why sidewalks are now in here, they weren't in here before.
Well,
We
and
have the
I'm,
bond form, right?
Lake Drive,
then we have the
they have not been included
So,
in
yeah,
the long range
do we
financial plan before.
bond for them
We
and then
have
get the
bond, no, we have
assessments for
bond
them?
money, it was in small capital last year, and we had bond money there. But, like Lake Drive reconstruction, we don't really have a choice about, cause the state is giving us the money at that point. But, you know,
Actually,
so-
that one, she said that today, that was a flexible date, she has no idea, and it's just a placeholder.
for which year? For
For
2022?
2025.
I don't know, the
Oh.
number they've told us all along is 2024, 2025, that the state was
So
gonna
it's-
give us the money. But, so these other ones are, I mean, the North Shore capital costs, which also were not included in here before, but those are not negotiable. But, you know, the other stuff we kind of do have some discretion about, so.
So the North Shore
The problem, I mean, the big picture problem is that we have a lot of facility needs,
Mhm.
and we have a lot of debt already out. And, you know, there's only two ways to go about this, or a few ways to go about it, and one is to start trying to reconsider either like putting a real focus on infrastructure and possibly having to look a lot more carefully at operating, or you raise taxes, you know, to be able to keep services where they are, because tends to be, I mean, look how people went ape about the $2 parking fee, you know, so it's like, okay, if you wanna keep services, then we either have to dial back on infrastructure, or we have to raise taxes, you know, I mean, there's,
Or
something has to
Or look at
give.
some other, like, is there, the other thing is there other ways we can do things, like,
Yeah,
could we work on some shared services? Like, what are some other
How about garbage?
options?
So
we
here's
could-
the thing with, can I just say that something about that?